Good morning. I too do not have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not very good with a computer, but I can promise I can make hollandaise sauce better than anybody else in this room. It's no secret that America has the highest prison population per capita in the world, and we start them very, very young. We set them forward on a path. In fact, the juvenile justice industry term to describe the population that they serve is throwaway. This is what they call kids in jail, throwaways. About 6 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to jail, juvenile jail, and teach 8 young men in one of the Dallas County facilities how to make ice cream for an ice cream contest at the Dallas Farmers Market. I walked into that juvenile facility that day with a definite stereotype as to who these kids were. Color of their skin, the way they walk, the way they wore their pants, the way they talked, the way they looked at me, the way they treated me. With the exception of the fact that I figured they'd be tattooed up, and I was right. I was completely wrong. These kids all looked me in the eye when they spoke. They all called me sir. Every single one of them was eager to learn something new and very enthusiastic about doing something that they could be proud of, most for the first time in their life. 2 days later, I took these 8 young men from jail to the Dallas Farmers Market, and they entered an ice cream competition against local college culinary students. And one of the young men won the entire competition. His winning flavor, by the way, was strawberry, cantaloupe, and basil. And when he won, he came running up to me and he said, "Sir, I just love to cook." And I said, "Sir, me too." And he said, "Sir, I just love to make food and give it to someone and put a smile on their face." And I immediately thought, how dare you stereotype this sweet boy? And I said, "I totally get it." And he said, "When I get out of here, I'm going to get a job cooking." And I said, "Awesome." And he said, "Well, where do you think I should work, Wendy's or Chili's?" And I said, "Whoever hires you first." I went home that day, and he went back to jail. And to this day, I have no idea what happened to that young man. But when I went home, I thought to myself, you had an opportunity to make a difference in this kid's life for a day. But what if you try to do that every day for the rest of his life? And so I decided that I wanted to do something more. And a very, very long story short that involves more ice cream and bourbon, decided that the best idea was to open up a restaurant and let these kids work in this restaurant. And that was the idea of where Café Momentum came from. And the idea for Café Momentum is very, very simple. Café Momentum, which will open down the street from Mark in about 2 months, God willing, and general contractors being honest. The idea is very simple. The kids that we work with, while they're incarcerated, complete a culinary program. When they're released, they're able to come work at the restaurant. The restaurant is an internship. Over the course of their 12-month internship, they work through 5 different stations in the restaurant, everything from washing dishes to waiting tables and everything else in between. In addition, when you're dealing with a throwaway population, and we'll talk about throwaway mean to be discarded, right? You're dealing with a population that has nothing. And a lot of people ask us constantly, well, these kids just need jobs, don't they? They just need jobs. The answer is yes, but when you have nothing, you need way more than just a job. So our restaurant will have a classroom, and inside the classroom will be programs and classes on everything from financial literacy to parenting, anger management, career exploration, conflict resolution, book club. As a matter of fact, we just had one of our young men write a book report on The Outsiders, and he got to go have brunch with S.E. Hinton. Whole nother story, whole nother day. But the idea is to create a more holistic approach into working with these kids, and it's very interesting listening to both of you ladies speak earlier, because it seems like that was kind of one of the things that's missing when you're talking about justice and creating better communities is a more holistic approach. So we have this idea for this restaurant, and a restaurant with a classroom, and we're going to make all of these great improvements with these kids. One problem. When you start going around telling people in your community, I've got this great idea. We're going to take kids out of jail, We're going to teach them to play with knives and fire, and it's going to make Dallas a much better community. You immediately begin to realize that every single person has the exact same stereotype that you did the day you walked into that facility. And so, in June of 2011, in an effort to break through those stereotypes, we decided that we were going to start hosting monthly pop-up dinners. And the idea was very, very simple. We were going to pick one of the best chefs in Dallas at one of the best restaurants. That chef was going to write a 4-course menu, and his or her staff to execute the food in the kitchen and serve it in the dining room to the high level of that restaurant were 8 kids that we would bring from jail. As I mentioned, first pop-up dinner, June 2011. There were 5 of us organizing this dinner. We thought, let's keep it really, really simple. We'll get 50 people to show up, and we'll charge $50 a person. 50 people, $50 a person, 5 of us organizing it. We decided, all right, let's make it even more simple. Each one of us has to sell 10 tickets to this dinner. We'll have to call 10 friends, beg, borrow, whatever we have to do to get people to show up to this dinner. I personally was ready to call my mom and have her guilt the ladies in her Bible study class into buying my 10 tickets. But 2 of us posted a link to a PayPal on social media, and within 24 hours, we had sold 68 seats to the dinner, which is kind of one of those moments where you think, oh, man, and then you think, oh, man. Since then, our first dinner in June 2011 went off flawlessly. Since then, we've now hosted 40 monthly pop-up dinners, every one of them selling out. We're now charging $100. We got really smart. We thought, wow, this is getting really popular. So in December of 2011, we thought, let's double the price to $100. We did that, and the dinner started selling out in 10 to 15 seconds. But most importantly, over the two important points over the course of that. Point number 1 is every single dinner, every single guest stops and says, this could be my kid. This could be my child. If not for me, this could be my child, which is a very telling statement about not only that we had broke through the stereotypes, but that throwaway population, I mean, it exacerbates the idea of throwaway even further. I mean, this is a population that no one even knows about. People are walking in saying, oh my God, this could be my kid, as opposed to, oh, here's another thug or a punk or a delinquent. The second thing, and something that we're very excited about, is 2 outcomes that we've studied over the course of doing these dinners. One being recidivism and the other being employment. Those 2 outcomes go hand in hand. When you work with the population that we work with, it becomes very obvious these children are going to jail because they need money. Not money to buy cool shoes, not money to buy video games, money to pay electric bills, money to take care of their siblings, money to take care of mom, money to buy food, money to buy school books. The recidivism rate for juvenile offenders in our state, as I mentioned before, we start them young. The recidivism rate for juvenile offenders in this state is 47%. Which means of the 160 kids that we have worked with over the course of 3.5 years, 80 of them should go back to jail. It's a coin flip. They walk out of jail and you flip a coin to decide whether or not they're going to go back. The employment rate, 8%, which means that 8% of them will have a job within 12 months of being released from jail. As I mentioned, we've worked with 160 kids over the course of 3.5 years. The recidivism rate for those kids is 11%. And the employment rate is 80%, and that's before we even have the restaurant open. So we're very encouraged. What we have, totally lost my train of thought. I get a little bit excited. When we put that into financial terms, and I think Chief Brown talked a little bit about, you know, the more you're incarcerating people, the less money the more money you're taking away from the city. The bigger you build the police department, the more money you're taking away for more important projects. To reincarcerate a juvenile in the state of in Dallas County a second time, it costs us, the taxpayers, $125,000. If they do go back to jail a second time, you can guarantee that they will spend the rest of their life going in and out, in and out, in and out, or what is known as a career criminal. A career criminal, ironically, their career lasts about 5 to 15 years. Over the course of that 5 to 15 years, they commit 2 to 4 felony assaults and 8 to 12 property crimes every single year, over and over and over again. The cost of a career criminal in this state is $1.7 to $2.3 million. That's a taxpayer cost. So when we talk about redeeming these young lives and saving these young lives, there's also a huge tax savings to all of us as taxpayers. As a matter of fact, just doing the math of the kids that we've worked with, 160 young men, taking the 47% and reducing it to 11%, that's a nearly $8 million taxpayer savings that we've provided Dallas County taxpayers over the course of 3.5 years, and that's almost $130 million deferred lifetime savings. I think that's about all I have. I usually speak for a long, long time, but I'm going to try to keep it short and brief today so we can get on to the questions.